Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Merrick from Merrick Makings, independent Stampin' Up demonstrator from Australia. I am joining the monthly video hop crew, demonstrators from all around the world for Stampin' Up, who are creating to a theme, and this month's theme is scraps. So we are all hoarders at heart, and we hate to part with little bits and pieces of cardstock and embellishments. So today my card focuses on using those cardstock pieces that you've got hidden away and using a die set to create a fabulously creative card that is also a fun fold. So here is my card. I'm not sure if you can see it or not, and it does fold out like that. It uses up very small pieces of our cardstock to create this card and lots of other embellishments as well. So thanks for joining me. We will get stuck into it. So to begin with today, we're going to need lots of bits and pieces, and we are using scraps. So I have created a double Z fold card as our base. I'm going to glue it together now and explain how these come together very, very quickly. So you basically have, for me, being in Australia, an A4 cardstock, and I'll put measurements up at the end of the video. But you are basically creating a Z when you cut and fold the base. But then it has another band that gets, and it's the opposite of this one, and it actually gets glued down. So when it's open, it creates a bit of a fun fold. I have used last year's, using up some scraps or some leftovers again, some bits and pieces from the pattern DSP, the 6x6 in I think it was 𝙈𝙖 𝙍𝙖, this one is. So I'm going to pop this one together very quickly. I'm not going to explain it because this is not really a part of the entire project, but I will put the measurements at the end. So here's my base, and it's folded. Now this is 10.5 by our 14.9, I think it is, or 14.8 is how it ends up folding. So I'm going to use a larger piece. I'm going to use this pretty florally design, and I'm just going to lay that down. It is cut 1/2 centimetre smaller just to get that slight border as well. And then I'm going to add the panel here, which here is one cut. And I'm going to adhere that to the front. Again, it's got that little border around. And what I really like about these Z fold cards, and you'll see it as I create this card today, is they give a 3D element that you can use to embellish. So another piece of the side panel, which I will pop on here as well. So you can see that is our base, very simple. Now this one will be adhered to here, but I'm going to add my pieces first. So we're going to use the striped side this time, not the floral side, just for a little bit of contrast when the whole card goes together. And I did want to create the base in pretty much just one colour. So you'll see why as we get creating. And I'll add this other piece in as well. And you'll notice that I do have the middle section of this one without a DSP. And you'll see why. This is where some of our elements are going to come into play. Now, I'm going to glue these on. So on this piece here, I'm going to add some glue. Not too much, because I don't want it to go on anything but that front panel here. So just this section here gets the glue. Hold it down for a second to make it start to adhere, and then this panel is going to be glued on here. Again, a liberal amount, and I'm just going to make sure that that lines up really neatly. Hold it in place for another second. I've just got a cough, excuse me. Okay, so this is the base of our card using last year's DSP, so using up some of those scraps, and a sheet of 𝙤𝙢 𝙍𝙖𝙘𝙗, which is last year's in colour. I'm going to pop that to the side for the moment. I'm going to show you my scraps. So if you're like me, I have heaps and heaps of leftover pieces of cardstock. So I keep those bits of cardstock. Sometimes I use them for other elements on my cards, some sentiments, etc. But today we are using the fabulous Paper Florist dies. Now this die set does not have a coordinating stamp set, but it is a whole heap of floral dies that you put together however you like to create a floral element on a card. Now these can be, or a lot of them tend to lend themselves towards a 3D look, and I'll show you that in a second. To pair with this today, I am going to use the Layering Leaves stamp set. I'm only going to use a sentiment and this little speckly one there, and I'll show you how that's used in a second as well. So of all of these, I'm going to lay them out a little bit so you can see what I've cut with the dies. Can you see some of those there? So I've obviously got some greenery, got some internal pieces of some flowers, got some, these ones are 3D flowers, and these ones are a little bit flatter but can be manipulated to be 3D. Now as you can see, very plain colours. We can change that very easily. So I'm going to pop these to the side, and I might bring a few in a second. So here is my first lot. Okay, I'm going to pop them down on here. So this one is this, and it has a slightly larger and a slightly smaller element, and you layer them. Now you can have it flat, or you can use your fingernail or a bone folder if you like. I have acrylic nails, so they're like having a bone folder on the end of my fingers, and you can manipulate that so it then becomes kind of 3D. Very simple. Now what I did do is I took that speckle there and I stamped these tone on tone using the same colour. So this one is Petal Pink, just to add a little bit of extra dimension. Now these are some of the internal pieces of the flowers, and you can use them however you like, but I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not. Let me pop them on my hand. The outside little round bits are slightly darker. How did I do it? Good old Stampin' Blends. Literally just go over those little bits that you want slightly darker, giving that 3D feel to it with a stamping blend. You can do it with ink as well. Okay, so that's some of those elements. Now comes from some more elements. These are my 3D flowers. Now, can you see how 3D they are? They're very 3D. This one is slightly flatter. It just depends on how you pop it together. This one has lots of dimension. This one will not be going on the card. Now, these are a little tricky to put together. Again, let me see if I can get it in there. Again, I've coloured in the ends of the yellow using my Daffodil Delight Stampin' Blend. Okay, now it's hard to see on this one put together or that one. However, I have got a pink version, and you can see how I have added, this one is Flirty Flamingo, and I have added with my blending brush some extra ink. So the back side of this paper that is down is covered in ink because I've done lots and lots of blending. So I've done that for these larger floral pieces, as well as some of the greenery. So you can see how they're darker on the edges and lighter in the middle. And that's because Granny Apple Green and then tone on tone with just Granny Apple Green ink layered over the top, creates that element of depth. And some of these ones, these beautiful flat, larger leaves, I've added an Old Olive stamping blend, and I've used the brush end to just go over the little stitched section on them, and it gives, again, a little more depth. Lots and lots of elements here, and we are going to put together, I'm going to hold my breath as I do this, put together the Flirty Flamingo flower for you, just to give you some idea of how it goes together. So they come out of the machine, now I'm going to have to fight with my nails, they come out of the machine flat. Okay, now again, I've added some ink there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little dot of glue. Now this Tombow glue is great. It dries really strong. And I'm going to just sort of manipulate it with my fingers a little bit so that it bends a little. And I'm going to try pop that one together. Now I'm going to hold it together for about 10 seconds. What this will do is the Tombow will start to dry. It won't be completely dry, but it will create that scooped effect on that petal. So when you pop it together, it will give that 3D look. Of course, you can probably just layer them together flat if you're looking for a card that needs to be flat. So we'll wait a second and we'll come back and assemble the flower. Okay, I've made a start. I'm just going to move some of this out of the way. I'm using my plastic sheeting, which came out of one of my stamp sets. And I've just started to pop these together. Now, again, the Tombow glue is great, but it does take a minute or two to dry. Use that to your advantage as you're putting this together. Now, this is going to look really clumsy, but I'm going to pop some glue in here. I'm going to... Now, I want 5 petals for these flowers. You can make it with 4, or you can make them even bigger with 6. But I'm just going to keep moving those bottom pieces around. Hold it for a second. This last one's going to go in and it's going to sit on top. Adding a fair bit of glue so that I can get them to stabilize a bit better. And then I'm going to just hold it there for about a minute or so. Now in these ones, they have that center element, which is a couple of little elements all stacked together. And this helps hold the whole lot together because you're going to add a bit of glue to the back side of it, and it is going to sit in the middle. It's going to cover up all that mess that's there. So let's put one of those together. Here is the first section. Then I went in with a little bit of glue and I went in with one of these large ones. Now you can put these together however you like. This is just how I chose to do it for today's elements. Okay. And I try to kind of, again, flip them up a little bit, add a little bit of dimension. Then what happens next is I'm going to take 2 of these little ones. Whoops, 1, 2, and I'm going to pop them in the center. Here's one. Again, they've got that little bit of shading on the ends, and another bit here. And this one is offset, and it all lines up really well. Whoops. Not that it matters, because, you know, nature's not perfect either. Now you can flick up all these little elements once it's dry especially, and it gives that real 3D. You are going to add to the back side of this plenty of glue. Well, for Tombow, that's plenty. Okay, and I'm going to add that into the center. Then I'm going to hold my finger down on it again for another minute or so until that starts to dry. Now remembering, this is using all scrap pieces. All these bits and pieces are scrap pieces. I did happen to also find in my stash some old foiled cardstock. So I have cut some of these gorgeous skeleton-like leaves out, and they're going to be the very last element I'm going to add to my card. So let's put our card together. Like I said, I've done lots of shading and things on these. If you have a white gel pen at home, okay, use it. add some extra dots and things, and it's easier to do before you add it to your card. Now I'm just doing literally like dotting a couple of dots, and again it just adds that extra bit of dimension. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on a few of the leaves, and it doesn't matter where these dots are. The darker the cardstock, the more this white does stand out. Okay, and look, the gel pen does not take long to dry. I'm going to add a few more. Make some of the dots bigger than others. Really random for this, and that's perfectly okay. That's what we want. We will also be adding at the end a little touch of Wink of Stella, the magic or secret weapon. Always adds that extra little pretty element to a card, especially when you're using florals or cute little critters, that sort of thing. I'd really like to use it for that. Almost done. Now we have got one here to go. It's school holidays here, so if you happen to hear some kids yelling, there's a few kids out playing on the street, which is lovely because where we live, there's lots of families and the kids do tend to go out on the street a fair bit during the day. All right, gel pen away. That's going to just add a little bit of extra, and we're going to bring back in our base. So I'm going to pop these ones away for the time being. We're just going to focus on this. So like I said, I'm going to fold it out, and it does fold flat or pretty close to being flat on here. So that means I can use this. So we can create elements at the front here and hanging out and then up here. And when this folds, a lot of those elements kind of get tucked in here. So the first elements we want are in this section here. I'm going to open that out and add all of our greenery, or most of it, first. So to do that, you just take one of these, add a little bit of glue, and it's going to come from behind, like so. Hold it there for a second, and then another bit of greenery here, and it's going to come there as well, like that. When you fold it, you can see where that sits. Now I'm going to add another piece to over here, because when it folds, you will see that as an open element as well. So a bit to the back side, and I apologise that I keep pulling that too far down and you can't see. So I'm going to, you can sit on the front there like that. So again, just keep playing with it as you add them. Fold that down so you can see. I want a little bit poking out from down here as well. I'm going to add one more down here. I'm going to do it probably that way. No, yeah, that way. That's going to have to go there like so. Not much on here yet, I know that. We're going to add layer after layer. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to add my sentiment. Like I said, I'm going to use the layering leaves. I'm going to use the Thinking of You stamp today, which is, they all look the same when they're in the in here. Okay, so here we go. Thinking of You. I'm going to use my Granny Apple Green. No. I think I will use Tahitian Tide after all. Keep changing my mind what colours I would like. So yes, Tahitian Tide. And I am going to that one. Ooh. Thinking of you. Whoops. Very simple. We don't want it too complicated. And I am going to add that to the front. So I'm going to cut it back with my trimmer. This again was a piece of scrap. And we're just going to make a bit of a tag style or a rectangular style base. And I am going to add, just making sure that it's all cut nice and square. And then I am going to take my scissors, and I've lost my good scissors, so I'm going to have to use my older scissors. Try to eyeball about the middle, and I'm just going to cut up about 1 centimetre, and then I'm going to line the corner to the top of that centimetre cut, or close to. I'm going to flip it over because this is the easiest way for me, and again from the corner up to the centre, and that creates my little bannered section. That's going to go on the front of our card. Okay, I'm going to pop that on the front of our card like that with, oops, lost them now, with my dimensionals, which are in a drawer underneath. Okay, so let's add some dimensionals to that. Now you want to leave a bit of room, okay, because we are going to add some more of those other elements. So yes, we want to have this on, but we want some sections where I can put some of these underneath. All right, take the little tabs off. And this, it does feel funny because normally I do add my sentiment almost last to any card, but not today. So it's going to go down on here, like so. That doesn't look quite straight, so I'll just straighten it up a bit. There we go. I'm going to add some more floral element from underneath. Like that, and see how I can actually move that under there. Just play with it until you're happy. Oh, there we go. That's what I would like. Until you're happy with where you might pop it. There is no planning involved. I'm just going to pop it in here, and it's going to sit down there like that. Perfect. Now, for these little floral pieces, I am going to use 1 or 2 of those. Like I said, curl them up a little. Add a centerpiece if you like, which I probably will do, which is one of these ones today. Just a little yellow one. We'll add a dimensional to that. Not a dimensional, sorry, a diamante, a little gemstone to that a little bit later as well. I might add a dimensional actually, so that it will sit right about there, overlapping there, that corner. Can you see how it's coming together now? And when you open it up, so this section here is where you're going to write. It's not a huge section, of course. You can probably leave this blank as well if you want to be able to write more, but that's where we're going to add some of the elements. Now this one, again, add a little bit of glue, add my little round dot to the middle, and just trying to see where I want. So I want it kind of hidden, but I want it really cute to sit in there. I'm not adding a dimensional to this one. Just going to stick him down there, like so. And now a little bit more greenery. So let's pop one of these on here. And these leaves, if you're gluing them down, you can actually kind of manipulate which way they want to go. That cardstock will bend with it, so to speak. And another one. Now you can see I've kind of cut those ones off. No problem. I'm going to put it on here, like so. Sorry, I'm concentrating as well, really hard. And I'm going to add, here we go, a little skeleton leaves. I'm going to pop one of them in here. That's going to cover up some of that. Now, the problem with foil cardstock is you can't get glue on top, or at least try not to. Okay, I'm going to add another little leafy element here. And on this one, I'm just going to add it just close to that one, because that one was the one that we see when we fold it. So now we're going to add one over the top. So it's very similar. Not quite the same, but it is going to give us that little bit of extra layer. Oh, it doesn't want to stick on. Did I? Okay. There we go. So, and I'm going to add a couple more in here. Lots and lots of these little elements. I'm going to stick one here. So it will actually show up when you open up. Another little foiled cardstock element as well in there, and one for the front, I think, as well. Like so. Card closed. Lots of that greenery. I might even add another one over here, I think, just so that it looks like kind of extends out. And you can see all these little white dots really do help. Do I want one more floral element? Could possibly do one there. You're not going to see it, and you're only going to get the small piece. So let's do that. But to do that, I'm just going to cut that in half. Okay, and add a little bit of glue here, and it's going to peek out of here like that. Cute. Very, very cute. So this is what you're going to see when you open it up. Lovely. That is our card completed with all of those scraps. Now, you can add a really big floral if that's what you're wanting, but then you can't post this. So it will stick on like that, gorgeous. But I think I'll add these to the present this is going to go with. I'll show you a picture of it when I'm finished. All right. Thanks again for joining me today. Remember, use up all those scrap pieces of cardstock. Don't wait for the next little card or whatever you need. You can use these and those little tricks of adding some dimension using ink or your Stampin' blends or some stamping, some very generic stamping on top, and create a lot of dimension with these fabulous dies. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Pop on over to our other wonderful team members who are going to get you using your scraps. Until next month, thanks everyone. Thanks again for joining me, everyone. Just a quick recap. This was the card we made using the florist dies, and it's a fun fold. But I did say I was going to create something else. So here is the little matching box that goes with it. A very simple little box with a lid, a bit of ribbon around the outside, and some simple embellishments on top that were the leftovers from this card. Thanks again for joining me. See you next month.